All right, man. Here we
Here we
are.
go.
We're ready to rock and roll. Let's do this, Dave. Appreciate you jumping on again. You ready?
Let's do this.
Okay, man. Looks like your setup got a little better.
Every once in a while, little upgrade from time to time makes you healthy.
Man, that mic, that's way better. That's
That's
awesome.
better, right? Is it more clear?
Yeah, it's way more clear.
Good, because I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say today, so it better be clear.
Yeah, we wanted to dive in. Look, this is kind of our 4th of July webinar, so happy 4th of July, everybody. But wanted to dive in and talk through this idea of declaring independence from AI confusion. So many people out there are nodding their head at the moment when they hear terms like AI agent, agentic, cloud employees, context window, LLM, you name it. We're all sometimes nodding, BSing our way through these conversations. And Dave and I thought, you know what, maybe we take a step back here. Rather than BS your way through it, why don't you actually understand some of these so that you can really contribute to the conversation and excel at your job. So today we're going to do that. We wanted to dive in, myself and Dave, and talk through some of these terms that you often hear, but you really have no clue what they mean. And Dave happens to be one of those people that I come to about once a week. And I'm like, now, what does this mean, Dave? What does that mean? And so we're going to dive in. Dave, thoughts before we jump in?
Yeah. And the problem with this industry is people are using technical terms for marketing purposes. So they're throwing things like super intelligence out there, or AGI, or MCP, and they're using it not correctly. So if you're confused, you're justified in being confused, because people are making stuff up every day.
And
it's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
Using the same term, to mean certain things like super. We'll get into that one, but super intelligent AGI. I'm just like,
that's right.
I don't know, man. I think you could use those interchangeably, although you were telling me you can't. So again, we're going to dive into that. So buckle up. I think it'll be fun. So I want to start at the top. We built a little document. We'll make sure that document, get the link in the comments so that you can kind of start to understand some of these terms. But one of the things I was wanting to jump into right at the beginning is assistant AI, co-pilot AI, autonomous AI, Dave. It seems like, sometimes we're just using AI agents for everything, but it feels like there's some difference when you get into these assistants, co-pilots, and maybe autonomous AI. Give me your quick thoughts there.
Yeah, let's start off with just an AI agent. Actually, is kind of the important. Because that's the foundation of what's happening, and it's AI agent is the noun for agentic AI as an adjective, right? So this concept of agentic is just an agent. And it became super trendy early this year. Like all of a sudden you saw Satya Nadella talking about it. You saw, the CEO of Microsoft, you saw Jensen Huang using it, the CEO of NVIDIA. It just became like the trendy thing to say, agentic AI. So an agent is a type of AI that does a workflow, that does a task. So and that's what an agent does. So in its most base form, an AI agent is just something that does some sort of automation, which is a confusing thing, because it's like, well, we've had automation for a long, long time. So what's the difference between just automation and agentic automation, or just an agentic workflow? And the difference is we're using an AI to make a decision versus a workflow. Like a decision tree or something that's like more determined is just a workflow. So it's like it's the old choose your own adventure books, where you'd be like, okay, I'm going to either do path A or path B. That's a deterministic sort of workflow. And that's what we've had for the last, 50 years. An agentic workflow or an agent is one that actually we're using AI to make kind of a fuzzy decision. It's like, depending on what information you give it, it could go A or B. So that's your first definition.
Oh man, I really like that one, because it does feel like there's so many workflows out there. And again, we're using the term, we're just like, oh, that is now AI. And I'm like, that just feels like a workflow. That is really just a built-in concept where you literally are programming, when this happens, I want you to do that. And I'm like, that doesn't feel any different than what I did in Marketo, 15 years ago. So I like that.
And be careful, because a lot of vendors are basically saying, oh, we're adding agents to our product. And they're basically taking the product they already have. They're putting a little bit of different algorithm in it. And then they're just calling it now, an agent, which I guess technically it might be, but it's the same workflow. There might be a little more autonomous nature to the decisioning, but it's the same stuff.
Okay, let's keep it high for a second, Dave. I do want to dive into a couple of those I mentioned, but AI then, so that's even higher than maybe AI agent or agentic agent. But What is AI? Because man, I thought I heard about AI, hundreds of years ago.
Go super big picture. Think about this tree. The very top of the tree of terms is AI. And underneath AI, there's like statistics, there's machine learning, there's workflow. Those are all types of artificial intelligence. And if you go back like 150 years ago, the founder of computers is a woman named Ada Lovelace. And we could do a whole session on just Ada Lovelace. But she was, she made this determination that AI will never exist. And it kind of was debated, and we're talking, I think 1830, 1840 when Ada, so like we're talking early days. By the time you have, the one kind of 1930s to 1950s, you have this now belief that AI can actually happen. You have Alan Turing. We've all, watched the Imitation Game where Alan Turing built this AI machine or this decision machine. AI is super broad. Basically, it's any way computers make decisions kind of independently. So this could be really a workflow. It could be, some sort of randomization thing. So that's your biggest term, AI. And then there's lots and lots of things that go underneath AI.
I like that. Okay, that's super helpful. And then with AI, there are these new terms that are coming out. You started with it, but it's like AGI or super intelligence. While we're talking AI, help me understand the difference, because I think super intelligence sounds cooler, so I have been saying that more, but I don't know what it means.
There's no doubt super intelligence is the coolest word we can use right now. But let's make sure we know what we mean.
My product has super intelligence. AI.
No. I'm telling people I'm super intelligent. I'm not just intelligent. I'm super intelligent. So, okay, there's three words in this pantheon. You have AI, you have AGI, and then you have super intelligence. And so again, these are terms that everybody are using for marketing, right? So AI is this broad term of just generally using kind of single automation, kind of intelligent or fuzzy automation around single decisions. So, we're thinking things like, and it's been around, algorithmically since the 50s. And I'd say it got very heated. Things like neural nets in the 70s and 80s, early mid 2000s, you have deep nets. So AI has been around for a long time, but think about it. It's basically using algorithms to make decisions that are very specific for like a narrow use case. Like, oh, should I go shopping or should I not go shopping? Maybe I'll make an AI algorithm that does that. In fact, you and I were making AI sales tools back in mid 2000s with InsideSales.com. Like that's been around for a while. This concept of AGI is reasonably new, at least kind of in the market when, and it's more broad AI. So it's not single decisions, but it's more comparable to say what humans do. So like humans, we make decisions about shopping and painting and sleeping and work. So we are an AGI, like
humans, almost like, for lack of better terms, are like an AGI.
That's right.
Idea.
And so an AI is a job specific decision algorithm. An AGI is broad, and so you would argue humans are that. Now, the crazy thing is Altman, back in December, in his 12 days of AI, if you remember, he announced, I think at the end of that, we have now achieved AGI. So, but what does that even mean? Like, who's to say, oh, this, an LLM is now comparable to a human where it can make decisions across all these different domains. Yeah. So AGI would be comparable to us. So I would say we're not there yet. I think we're probably fairly close. And I want to take a step back. There's this concept called the Turing test that Alan Turing made. And it's actually, it's super interesting. So the premise is you put either a human or a computer in a closed room, and then you have somebody outside that room that's slipping questions into this room that may or may not have a human, or it might be a computer. And then that computer or human slides answers on a piece of paper back and says, here's the answer to your question. If we, as the person sliding questions in and receiving the answers out, can't tell the difference, but whether it's a human or a computer, then it doesn't make any difference. Now you've achieved AGI. I would say, again, if you think about GPT, maybe we're there. There's times when I'm like, I can't tell whether an email is an AI response or if this is a human response. Yeah. But I would say it doesn't really span all domains. So you have AI, this broad definition of just algorithmic decision-making. Then you have an AGI, which is human level intelligence and human level capability of answering questions. And now let's go to super intelligence. or SGI.
Quick. So AGI stands for artificial general
General
intelligence.
intelligence. That's
Yeah,
right.
got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And so now another thing just happened, which is to me super interesting. Zuckerberg at Meta just pillaged the world's top AI researchers. Like it was a full-on FBI raid. It was a bloodbath. Like he literally took every major researcher. I mean, I'm sure that's not entirely the truth, but many of them. Like I think there was 13 or 14.
13? Yeah, that's
known,
a lot.
very notable, and it was mostly OpenAI. Like so, he tried to buy a company, and they wouldn't do it. So he just recruited the people. Like he just like everybody. So it was all the way from OpenAI to, I mean, it's truly bloodbath to like Anthropic. Like he went after everybody. Yeah, DeepMind. Yeah. And so he created with these 13 people plus several he had in house a thing called Superintelligence Labs. So let me tell you what my understanding of superintelligence is. You have AGI, which is human level intelligence from math. And then the step beyond that is superintelligence, which is when those algorithms surpass human capability in every front. So it's not just like, this is better than me at hosting podcasts. This is better than me at everything. That's a superintelligence.
Is there an analogy? It seems like a toddler.
Yes. So the analogy between an SGI and an AG, or like a superintelligence, is like the intelligence that we have, our capability to do stuff, to understand stuff, to solve problems, versus a toddler. That same distance is the difference between a superintelligence and an AGI. So it's dramatically beyond. Like a toddler can't even conceive of the things that we think of, even things as simple as, again, cleaning our house or going shopping or doing math problems. That same inability to understand the capability of a super intelligence is that same distance. And so, but okay, here's the movie Dune is based off of what happens when a super intelligence is made in that. And I'm not, I'm a big believer in AI and promoting it, what we're doing at Signals. That being said, everyone's watched the movie, but there's this underlying theme in the book series that basically a super intelligence took over humanity, and humanity finally fought back and beat it down. And so AI was no longer available. And so it became the ability to run math in people's heads was now the religion. And so like there's that level of super intelligence is kind of scary and kind of risky. And yet Zuckerberg is like, bro, I'm going all in. I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to build the thing that's going to kill humanity. Now, I've not heard him say, quote, I'm going to kill humanity, but he's running all the plays, and he spent, it was over $30 billion, I believe, to try and go roll this team up.
That guy does not mess around, does he?
No, when he swings, like he's swinging. Like when he went after like the metaverse, like did it land? Probably not. But boy, he did not cut any corners when he's going. So he's going all in. So I think AI, AGI, super intelligence.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Wow. That was man, we should probably just stop there. I think that was a lot to take in, but we still got a few minutes. Let's hit a few others. The word autonomous comes up a lot. And I don't, like autonomous agents or autonomous how does that fit into kind of this world?
Okay, so that's a super good question. There are lots of different types of agents. So you have an agent that could just be an assistant agent. So one of the first tools that came out was Microsoft Copilot, and it was amazing, right? So it was essentially a super fancy autocomplete. In fact, we used to joke when it first came out a couple years ago, it's Clippy, but a little bit smarter. So like, if you remember, Clippy used to show up. Most of you are too young to remember Clippy. If you remember Clippy, please comment and tell me, share how much you hated Clippy because it sucked. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. There's some memes about it that will make you giggle. Okay, so a Copilot is basically a very fancy autocomplete when you're coding. It doesn't really, and then you have to decide whether you're going to use it or you're not going to use it. That's kind of it's an assistant. I have to actively use it. A lot of AI first came out in that form where it's like, look, it's not doing work for me. It's just helping me be a little bit better. And it felt good because it's like, it's not threatening my job. It's cool. Like we're friends. It works for me. It's not going to take over humanity. We don't have a Dune computer religion that's coming along. So everyone was like, this is good. Then we have these things that are more like autonomous agents. So this is super interesting where you've got an agent that actually does the work entirely without you. So And I think this is where it's going. It's a little scarier, but basically there are things like, hey, this is whether I'm at work or I'm not at work, it's setting appointments for me. Whether I'm like, we're seeing a lot of autonomous agents where in support roles, we're seeing them in appointment setting roles. So very monotonous, very tedious, repetitive tasks. Totally autonomous agents are emerging. And so you basically have kind of this workflow thing, and then you have these assistants, and then you have autonomous agents. So those are the three that I see kind of emerging.
I like that. Cool. Okay, good. That is a nice rounding out then. So some more basic terms that we hear often, LLM. Sounds like that's kind of part of the foundational element. What is that? How does
Yeah.
roll?
So here's kind of what happened. All the way from 70s, a lot of like pretty advanced algorithms emerged, like neural nets and things like that, and they've gotten better. But there was about 7 breakthrough mathematical studies, research studies that emerged that allowed this transformer model where you stack up a lot of it. They still include a lot of the old math. So there's neural nets built into a large language model. But the difference is this transformer concept. But in essence, what it's doing is it's looking at massive amounts of language, of just words and things like that. And then it's learning those patterns, and then it's just repeating them back. So it's like a parrot that is taught off of the entire corpus of the internet. And it's mostly things like Wikipedia and Discord and Reddit, and where there's lots of text. Like that's the bulk of where this thing is trained from, but it's all over the place. So what it is if you think in a human brain, there's a component of our brain that talks, that has the speech function. I would think at core an LLM is the replication of that speech function in our brain. It now has the ability to know how words go together super well. So that's really what's emerged. And then there's more intelligence than decision making that's been put into these models that allow them to know when to say things like that. And so that's where you see lots of different models at OpenAI, where you have the GPT 2.5 and then 3.5 and then 4 and then, all of these. It's more like not just the language, but it's, hey, let's try and put some intelligence in this thing so they're logical answers.
I see. And then sometimes I'm hearing with these different LLMs, I'm hearing this word MCP come up a lot. I'm hearing RAG and CAG and vector. I don't want to go so deep, but
no, let's stay high level. But those are interesting things, and you should at least understand what they are. So if you think about the way an LLM works, is you give it some information. Context is the term. Like people use context. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm tired of hearing the word context window. All it is it's your prompt. What you put in a prompt, and then you pass it to an LLM, and it says, okay, this is the information you want. And a prompt can be fairly sophisticated, where you can say, here's the background, pretend I'm this kind of thing, these are the kind of answers, use this kind of information. So it's all of the instructions you pass an LLM. The LLM says, okay, got it, and then it gives you an answer. That's the most basic workflow of an LLM. Then you go a step further and say, well, what if I need more information from, say, my company? Because there's nothing specific about my company in an LLM. And so really it's just the corpus of data from Reddit and, YouTube and whatever. So you say, okay, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to make a CAG system, which is basically says, here's specific information about my company or about my problem that I want to solve. And I'm going to combine that with my prompt and then pass that into the LLM. And then it gives it. So it's basically giving more information. And then RAG is, once I do pass the information to the LLM or in the process, it's a database, a vector database, which is just it's almost the same as any other database, except that it allows you to search things that are similar, like in the proximity of what so if I say, tell me your favorite classic muscle cars, and then maybe I have a database of the best muscle cars. It can then go, before it goes to the LLM, or even once the LLM hits that, it would go and ask that vector database information about cars that it has. And so you can give it very specific information. So these are CAG and RAG are both ways to inform the LLM with more information so it can give you a more specific or more intelligent answer. And a use case for that is company information. So if I want to build an agentic agent that is used for support about my company, I can say, okay, I'm going to make a context window, which is just, information that's generic. I want to pass it to the LLM every time about my company, my history, our culture, things like that, our products, our pricing, our website content. I can pass that through the context window from a CAG system. And then maybe there's a lot of data, maybe our whole knowledge base of every product and trainings and things like that, I would put in a RAG system, and it basically looks it up, and it's not looking up a direct correlate. It's not like a one-to-one correlation saying, hey, maybe it's not looking at cars. Maybe it's saying, oh, well, it's not a car, but it's a vehicle. It's a bicycle. So it's finding things that are in the same ballpark to try and give it the best answers.
Oof.
So was that too dense? That might have been dense. You yawned twice, so screw you.
Yeah, one of those like closed mouth.
Just MCP. Yeah, MCP is okay. This is one of the most important terms, and I don't think people are. Again, it's hard to understand. It's the concept of it is it's an API. So you've heard the term API. It's how one computer talks to another computer. And there's lots of different, we'll call it languages that they talk. MCP is a type of integration that an AI can talk to another AI. So think about what I just said. It allows AIs to talk to each other in a standard way. And it was actually Anthropic who invented the standard and then open sourced it. And then pretty soon everybody was using it. I posted a bunch about it. I think it's so technical that people are like, I don't get it. Like, who cares? I think this is as big a change in the world as when TCP/IP was invented. And just so for people who don't know what that is the protocol that the internet runs on. Without getting super technical, it allowed the modern internet. So this is now the protocol, the language that AIs can talk to each other without us even being in the middle of it. So I could write a post or make a prompt to say, find the best vacation spots for spring 2025 or summer 2025. And it now has the ability to go and talk to lots of websites and databases and maybe even my calendar and maybe even my bank account to say, well, how much does Dave actually have? What can he even afford? So it's the ability for AI to go all over the web and consolidate and make really interesting, meaningful things. This is why MCP it's model context protocol, but who cares? I know, right? This is what makes AI useful to us, because like when GPT first came out, we were like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm going to ask it questions, and I'm going to ask it stupid questions, and I'm going to ask it like inappropriate questions, and it's going to answer, and I'm going to try and hack it. But pretty soon we're like, okay, this was a cool circus trick, but now what? What MCP does is it lets it integrate into all of our lives, our bank accounts, our homes, our home automation, our refrigerators, our cars. So I could have an AI in my car and say, hey, I'm almost home. Will you go turn the air conditioner or whatever? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, things like that. It allows all of these AIs to start to talk to each other. And what's interesting about it is now Microsoft, OpenAI, everybody's accepted it as the standard, even though Anthropic started. So now it is a thing.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I've heard that one a bunch. Okay, couple more terms, then I want to go back big picture before we close. Hallucination bias. These are things we're hearing a lot just with models. Give us the quick overview there, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So AI doesn't know what's right or wrong. Just these LLMs, they don't know. So to say like, hey, it's lying to me, it doesn't. Lying, it's like a sociopath. It doesn't actually know good or bad or right or wrong. It just has information. And so if you ask it a question and it doesn't have data to answer it, it'll just make something up. And it is like, this is good. Like, and so a hallucination is when AI doesn't have the data to make a correct answer. So it just uses its information to make a false answer. Now, it's actually pretty easy to solve for this, because all you do is tell it, don't lie to me. Like, if you don't know the answer, don't make something up. And it's pretty good about not doing that. But for a period of time, dude, it was crazy. Like stuff was like,
there was stuff in the news. I mean, we heard about it a lot, like this hallucination thing, this stuff, etc.
But again, it's fundamentally not actually a problem if you know how to manage. You just have to be very proactive about it. And you also have to know what data you're giving it, because that is another little scary thing, is if you give it access to data you don't ultimately want it to have. Like we had a client at Signals say, hey, I can't believe this, like your agent, your cloud employee is what we call them. And there's a difference there, but we can talk about that at some point. Gave somebody my email address and my phone number, and they shouldn't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, it's on your website. And they're like, well, I don't want it there. And I'm like, okay, let's go remove that off your website. So you need to be cognizant over what data, and there's a whole area of data governance around AI and what data you want it to have. So you can say, never make something up if you don't have the data for it. And then just be cognizant of what data you give and you don't give to it.
I love it. Okay. Well, yeah, let's end with some big picture stuff here. So you've talked often about an autonomous organization. We've heard
Mhm.
that term. Frontier firms, cloud employees are part of that. This ECE ratio. Maybe just bring us home with kind of some of the future terms that people are starting to hear that are shaping the way that businesses see these AI first companies.
Yep. So Microsoft, I think we shared this in a previous podcast, made a really interesting, like posted a really interesting article that they called it the Frontier Firm. And this first, when it came out, it's like, what a stupid name, Frontier Firm. Like, what does that even mean? That sounds like they're out on the, on the prairie. But I think it's turned out, and we should post it in the link if one of our producers will go and post the link to that article. The premise of it is companies are fundamentally transitioning and transforming to a new way of operating. And if you don't understand this, you're going to be in some serious trouble in the next, honestly, 12 to 24 months. And the premise behind it is companies will no longer scale by just throwing people at problems. The way companies will scale is with creating agents or cloud employees to automate different tasks autonomously around doing these things. So rather than just having this co-pilot concept where it's limited to my time, right? So it's like, if I only have 8 hours of work in a day, or in your case, 18 hours of work in a day. If you guys don't know, Gabe's a workaholic. I can only manage AI to do a certain amount. That's not what a frontier firm is. A frontier firm, or what we're calling an autonomous enterprise, these are companies that have relatively small teams of leadership and strategists, and then they're managing AI to do all of the work. So you have autonomous agents or cloud employees that do complete jobs versus tasks. So tasks are you can have an AI go do a specific task. It's me managing it. A job is when an AI is an autonomous entity that's actually doing that job independent, whether I go to sleep or not go to sleep, whether I'm telling it to do it or not telling it to do it. It's frankly the same as any other teammate or employee. Like, they just work. The difference is they work 24 hours a day. They do exactly what you say. They make the mistakes you instructed to, but not. So companies are moving to these autonomous enterprise organizations where there's this ratio between a human and a cloud employee or an autonomous agent. And just as there are efficiency ratios of revenue per employee or CAC ratios or magic numbers, there's this new metric called, it's a employee to cloud employee ratio. So an ECE ratio. And it's how many humans to non-human autonomous agents are working in an organization. And again, it's still early to say what's right or wrong, but it appears to be early on. We're seeing companies that are just trying to get to a one-to-one. Like, that's like, let me just have these autonomous employees, autonomous agents versus human employees. But we see some, like, there's an organization that they have, remind me the number, how many roles are they intending to build within their organization? You know the one I'm speaking of?
Yeah.
It's
74.
some crazy number. And so they expect to have anywhere from a 1 to 3 and as high as a 1 to 10 ratio between humans and these autonomous agents or these cloud employees. So just keep an eye on that and make sure, again, I don't know if there's a lot to do for everybody, but just watch it, listen to Gabe's podcast. But those ratios are very important. And this concept of an autonomous enterprise and these autonomous agents, I think that's going to change the world.
I love it.
That's a big deal.
Really appreciate it, Dave. Super interesting information. We'll make sure everyone has the link for the document as we leave. What would be kind of your parting wisdom as we kind of talk about the no BS playbook for AI, this glossary, and making sure you kind of understand the basics as we go into this AI first revolution?
Yeah, just be super, be curious about what's happening out in the world and listen to the news, and be skeptical of marketing fluff. So one thing, just be very weary of people throwing out terms like super intelligence, and then just look it up. Like, just be curious and be like, okay, pardon me, just do a Google search. The Wikipedia article on super intelligence is really good. So when you hear terms, look them up and then just watch the news. Like, there's all kinds of, I'll kind of end with this. There's a piece in Lord of the Rings that I love. It's an interesting kind of element when they're going over the mountain and there's these stone giants that are fighting and totally unaware of the the group that are trying to travel over the mountain. They're throwing rocks at each other. It's a rainstorm. They're watching these giants fight. The same thing is happening today. If you look at what happened to Oracle and with Microsoft, Oracle, OpenAI, Meta, like there's giants are just throwing rocks at each other. Like there's this crazy war happening, and we need to just be careful that you don't ignore this. You're aware that this fight is happening, and you don't get squashed by accident, because there's a good chance, like, the world is changing so fast. Oracle just did the largest deal in SaaS history, building out, new data centers. There's stuff happening. Just watch the news and be very skeptical. Just make sure you're being smart about this stuff. Don't get squashed. It's 4th of July. You got to be creative.
This is the movie buff. So anyways, man, really appreciate it. For the audience, have a fantastic day.